Welcome back, everybody, to the Victory Road World Cup of Pokemon VGC. We're here now for the fourth match between France and Thailand in the top four of the competition, and it has been extraordinary so far. My name is Ben Kiraku, joined here on the mic by David Parsington. And David, Thailand are 3-0 up. Would you have called this coming in?
Coming into the entire tournament, no. They had a pretty strong World Cup 2021, to be honest. So, to be honest, they were probably quite a good sleeper pick, to be honest, for this year. But seeing them kind of go from not only from top 8 but to top 4 now is pretty huge. And we're already 3-0 in. This, I could be going to bed pretty early, Ben.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely could be wrapping it up in this match. I mean, there's only one more game to play for Thailand. France now have to win all four of the next matches that we have. And we have, what a way to start it off, really. The resident manager from Team France, Adam Cherfaoui, coming in against Gunn from Thailand. And, if there was ever a time to lead from example, this is it, David.
I think it is exactly it's the manager coming in from France. He's gonna turn it around for him, and he's been doing pretty well for his team too. He's at 4-2 currently in this year, and he was 4-2 last year as well. So if he gets an extra win here, it's one better for his team, and obviously one little bit closer to taking the going to the finals. And what a win that will be too, because Gunn's also been doing pretty well. He's 3-2 as well. So we're almost halfway through, but to be honest, looking at the matches, you can see they've all gone to to the third game. So it's not. It looks one-sided, but actually there could be a little bit of dynamic play into here, and we could be looking at something a little bit closer than maybe what the scores actually show.
It definitely has, and if for any of you that have been watching along, we've definitely had some tight sets all the way through. I'm really looking forward to this as well, because I'm really looking forward to seeing what Gunn's playing, because in the background, and it was when the team had already won. Gunn is the only player to have used Zacian in its other form, in its hero form, rather than in its crown form, as we see it day in, day out. So unlikely that we're going to be seeing this here at 3-0 up, but really interested to see what Gunn's going to be bringing.
Absolutely. And you can check out what everyone's bringing on the VGC Victory Road website. As you can see here, this is being updated live as we're going through the stream at the moment. You see the Pokemon from the last 3 games here, so you can pick up what you want to see and then maybe have a little bit of a think about what might come into the finals, maybe what you might see in the semifinals next stream, which is going to be tomorrow. So it's something that I'm particularly interested in, because we've obviously had Worlds already, but what are people taking from Worlds and actually still using? What has been something that's been used at Worlds and maybe was a little bit a bit of a surprise, and that was maybe it, but what has actually been taken from there and then used more consistently? And we can see here, Rinja Sun is just stuck there pretty convincingly as well. But maybe that Yveltal Kyogre kind of stuff that we've seen at that top match there is something that's maybe come out a little bit more from World. So definitely check out the website to see all the updates from the Pokemon.
Definitely. And yeah, it's nice to see there's a little bit of team consistency going on there. And, these two teams in common on the Thailand side. We've got 2 teams that look very similar on the French team with a little bit of variations, and then 2 Rinja Suns. It was okay, yeah, cool. We're playing VGC 2022. If Rinja Sun wasn't there, it definitely wouldn't be that. We can see here now on your screen Adam Cherfaoui versus Gunn K Sathorn from Thailand. Both players have their own accomplishments. Adam with the London Open top 64 from the 2023 season. Now the tournament at Worlds this year, and a 2021 World Cup competitor, played last year and is a returning manager, of course. Gunn with Thailand Nationals top 8 performance and 2021 Asia Cup qualifier top 8 performance as well. So a player that's managed to make it to the high stages of 2 quite big events.
They have two very strong players, and no trouble and no surprise that they have been picked for their roster for the semi-finals too. Gunn did use Lunadon last week and did quite well with it, and Adam is now kind of using Cole, but he used kind of an interesting variant of the Zacian Ogre team last week, kind of with a Thunderous Therian as well. So, and as you can see with his Colossal team here, he's kind of also taken an archetype that you might normally see an Urshifu Rapid Strike on, but instead he's going to put that Dragapult on instead. So taking like a team archetype and putting his own kind of spin on it, which I really like.
Yeah, and it's going to be good to see how that comes into play here, especially now that we see that Gunn is playing a Zacian Kyogre build, and Kyogre's definitely not good for Colossal. It's definitely not something that Colossal wants to see. But actually, if you take Kyogre out of that team, out of Gunn's team, the Colossal looks really good. And I think this is one of the really fascinating things about how Colossal teams work, is that Colossal beats everything except for the things that it doesn't beat. And the things that it doesn't beat it really quite badly. So it'd be interesting to see how Adam navigates around the team that Gunn's using, and whether Gunn can successfully, avoid the Colossal becoming a really big threat while dealing with all of the other Pokemon on Adam's side of the field.
Gunn actually last week using Lunadon, he actually faced Colossal again last week. So almost the exact same team, but with that Urshifu Rapid Strike. So he's facing the same team again this week, but with that Dragapult instead. So he's using a different team himself, but I think the fact that he's using a Kyogre this time is probably going to be quite helpful for him. Whereas on Adam's end, I think he's definitely looking a little bit shaky, especially with that Yveltal. You kind of don't want to bring that into a lot of things there, like that Thunderous and that Zacian. So you're kind of already playing with maybe one restricted, but you could argue with the right kind of setup, Colossal is also your restricted.
Yeah, absolutely. If he gets that, is possibly Surf on that Dragapult to allow it to set up, and of course, with a little bit of speed control, maybe the Dragapult has something like Max Fly that it has access to. The Yveltal could start, really doing some damage. If Gunn's Zacian isn't trained to be max speed, then Dragapult is potentially able to outspeed it, and so there's some real interactions going on here. We'll have to see how these things shake out now that we're getting into game one, and we have it from Adam's perspective here. Zacian and Dragapult leading out, with Gunn leading out that Incineroar and Kyogre.
Okay, yes, game 4, Thailand versus France. This is potentially a decider match point for the on Gunn's end for Thailand. So Kyogre and Incineroar is a bit of a more of a defensive lead for sure. I mean, it's fairly standard going into kind of Colossal. You like having that big special defense that Kyogre has and that water type damage to be able to threaten it immediately. But Adam's not falling for that too much. He's led with not the Colossal at all. Potentially in the back still if he does have that Surf option on his Dragapult, but with the Zacian too. Taking that Intimidate from the Incineroar isn't going to be great, so Kyogre's looking pretty good at the moment, especially as it's not going to take single type damage from the Dragon Darts that might potentially come out too. So it's looking kind of comfortable, maybe not needing to Dynamax at this point. But I think both players are going to be interested to see what items both players are running, because it's going to be quite big whether that Incineroar might be a Focus Sash, for instance, versus something like a Citrus Berry, because that could make a big difference if you're trying to completely one-shot this Incineroar.
Definitely is. And we're going to see an early Dynamax coming out from, I believe that's Gunn's side of the field. Unlikely that the Dragapult is going to be going for the Dynamax in this matchup, and it is indeed that Kyogre going big and going to be launching out some big attacks. Do you think Adam's Zacian is a little bit threatened here by the Max Geyser, but not so much with the Light Screen coming out from the Zacian here. No Fake Out either coming out from the Incineroar, so just a Sacred Sword going into that Incineroar from the Zacian and doing pretty good damage here. Parting Shot coming out into the Zacian from the Incineroar, going to be going back to Gunn, and that Zacian now sitting at one stage of decreased attack is going to stop the Kyogre really worrying too much about what Adam Zacian is going to be doing until it switches out and resets itself. Now, after all of Adam's attacks have gone off, Zacian comes in nice and clean, waiting for Kyogre to go for its Dynamax move. which is going to be the max hailstorm. Going to be enough to take that Dragapult down to what focus sash. And if it is that focus sash, is going to be knocking it out at the end of this turn from the hail.
Yeah, I like this play from Gunn. Even though he's gone for the max quite early, revealing the Life Orb on the Kyogre too, he is able to get rid of this Dragapult before it starts setting up too much. And now he's also brought in his Zacian. He doesn't want to get that burnt either, so having the Dragapult go down is really good for him. We do see a little bit of speed interactions here. It looks like Gunn's Zacian is probably the faster of the two Zacians at the moment, so still potentially faster than Adam's Dragapult as well, but we didn't really see a lead for it. It might not be still. Adam does bring in his Rillaboom this time, so quite a nice option going into a Kyogre team for sure. Doesn't hit a lot of else with that grass type move, but Kyogre's just offensive presence just warrants Rillaboom every single time. So, and as we can actually see, we've seen the cheeky Incineroar on the back, so no Colossal whatsoever. Not a huge surprise going into Kyogre, so he's kind of after playing with the other mode at the moment, but it's still something that Adam is in the driver's seat for at the moment in terms of Dynamax turns. Like, he can go for a Dynamax on his Rillaboom, he can dish out some huge damage, and with Incineroar in the back, you can reduce the damage from the Zacian too.
Yeah, it's just like that position isn't the greatest to be in, really. You don't want to be bringing too often an Incineroar into a matchup against Kyogre, and if that's what Adam's got to do and is what he's had to do, and that really does mean that that he's feeling on the back foot here. Of course, that Rillaboom is going to be putting a lot of pressure, as you said, on the Kyogre. So, maybe the name of the game is to just stop the Kyogre from really going too far. Stop the Zacian on Gunn's side of the field by doing too much damage with Behemoth Blade, especially now that Adam's gone for its Gigantamax on the Rillaboom and going to be dishing out a G-Max Drum solo, hopefully, if all goes well for Adam on this next turn.
Okay, so Behemoth Blade comes out from Gunn Zacian. This isn't the Rillaboom. Yep, it's going to do a fair chunk of damage here, and it is the two-shot and even being at neutral attack right now. So Hailstorm comes out, but is it enough to take out this Rillaboom? We haven't seen an item on it yet, but it is enough. That is just one Rillaboom completely down, no Dynamax turns, completely destroyed. And that is the power of Life Orb Kyogre. You get that boost on your Ice type move as well as your Water move. So just absolute damage coming from Gunn at the moment, and it's really paying off for him in this Kyogre matchup. Incineroar does take the Hail Chip, so no safety goggles on Adam's end, but in the grassy terrain, also healing up everybody. Kyogre's still faster than this Incineroar, but interestingly from turn 1, Gunn's Incineroar outsped his own Kyogre, so maybe potentially like a max speed Incineroar. Still potentially with that Focus Sash, because there's not a lot of other Focus Sash candidates on Gunn's end, and that is a pretty good item to have.
Certainly is, and yeah, now of course there's still the Incineroar on Gunn's side of the field. Only Zacian in the back for Adam, and so now that the Zacian has to come in and going to leave Adam in a place where there's Incineroar and Zacian versus all four of Gunn's Pokemon still. The Incineroar can just come in for Gunn, bring that fake out pressure onto the field, bring that intimidate pressure onto the field. And of course, with one more max turn left on Gunn's side of the field, it's going to be quite easy to dispatch that Incineroar and just eventually be able to mop up the Zacian. Zacian's one advantage is that it can hit the Pokemon it attacks really hard, and its one disadvantage being that it can't hit any more than one Pokemon at once. So yeah, looks like Adam hitting the forfeit button here and knows that there's no real way to claw this game back, and Gunn's looking like taking the first game, and only one more game stands between Thailand and Thailand taking the win against France and moving on to the finals of the World Cup.
Yeah, this is a really tense moment for both teams at the moment. Like, this could be like the clincher that they absolutely need to take and the win and go to the finals. So, and that's going to take the pressure off a lot of the other players in Thailand if Gunn can take the win here. And like, what a debut for him as well if he can do that. So, like, he's definitely got the matchup here with that Kyogre. And as you can see, Adam didn't want to bring his Colossal, which is kind of the team is based around. He didn't want to bring the Veltal because there's a Zacian and a Thundurus, which he did not bring. So I wonder if that could be something he could switch up maybe and maybe focus more on the Veltal, which is probably has a bit more offensive potential.
It does, and you kind of got to do something that doesn't lose as quite as quickly as what happened in game one, because Incineroar Kyogre just had the run of the game. Just attack after attack after attack, and especially with that life orb that's been revealed now onto on the Kyogre on Gunn side of the field, you've really got to make that adjustment to be able to mitigate the damage or to knock out that Kyogre as quickly as possible, right? Because you just can't let it get attack after attack after attack off. It just does too much damage. And it's one of those things when you look at these sort of compositions, especially the one that Gunn's running, it could be those sort of more bulky variants that typically have a Zapdos rather than a Thunderous, which may be a little bit of a telegraph on Gunn's side, but they can be either really fast and offensive like what Gunn's using, or they can be a little bit more slow and grindy, and if you play into the wrong one, you can definitely catch a cold, so to speak.
Yeah, so Gunn sticking with his lead here, probably what he also kind of stuck to versus last week's team as well, when he also versus Colossal. Like, it was probably just a tried and tested lead. He knows what to do, and he's just playing with it this time again. An interesting thing about a very fast Incin, potentially max speed as well, is that you also probably outspeed most Rillaboom as well. So you're always able to fake it out before it can even go for a glassy glide. So Rillaboom's even less of a threat for you, unless it's going for the Dynamax. But even then, in front of an Incineroar, you're already at a -1 attack. So this is a really solid lead for Gunn. It gives him so many options, and Kyogre is just not going down to anything that Colossal has, especially if it's going to Dynamax. So I imagine we might see something very similar here, and I think it's going to be on Adam's end to kind of make more of a harder read here, maybe go for Protect on that Colossal, get the boost behind the Protect maybe, and then kind of support with the Dragapult going into the following turns.
Yeah, see, the trouble is that there's no way that you're ever going to take any attack from that Kyogre. I quite like what we're seeing here with Adam really going for a little bit more of a defensive play. Gunn, though, switching out the Incineroar, knows that the likelihood is that Colossal is going to be going down if it doesn't go for a max guard. And the Kyogre's just going for a very safe Dynamax here. Likely going to be launching a water move into the Colossal. I think there's no reason not to for Gunn in this position. You just don't want to let that Colossal go nuts and get more than one attack off. You can't stop the first attack, but maybe you can stop the second and third attacks going off here. Adam going for the Dynamax onto this Colossal, though. We saw behind the scenes that there's going to be a little bit of a max guard here, so quite like the way that Adam's playing this, just delaying the knockouts just another turn, delaying the Dynamax turns as well on Gunn's Kyogre, making it so that they get less damage onto the field overall, but not falling for it whatsoever. Gunn going for the Max Hailstorm into that Dragapult. We saw it in game one. We're seeing it again in game two. That Focus Sash going down to the Focus Sash, even through Light Screen, and gonna be knocked out to the Hail. And that Colossal is stuck, going really slow.
Yeah, that was like a huge turn right there, because now your Colossal is sitting there having wasted a turn of Dynamax and has kind of no way to set up that weakness policy plus that Steam Engine anymore, unless the Kyogre itself hits it. And I don't think it's going to be living any hits anytime soon, even through that Light Screen, especially thanks to that Life Orb on that Kyogre. So a huge turn for Gunn there, going straight for that Dragapult, because it's easy to see the Colossal, see that potential damage output, and needing to target through it. And with Life Orb, you probably get the KO through the Protect anyway if it didn't go for a max guard. So having that offensive presence there, it's very tempting to hit into it. And I think that's what Adam was banking on. And if you go for the Hailstorm to Dragapult too, you're also getting rid of your own rain, so that your subsequent turn you can't even do that much damage on top of that. Plus, if the Volcalith or a Max Flare came out that turn, it would have done even more damage. So it was a risky turn on Gunn's end, but obviously he was pretty confident for it, and he's completely denied any potential setup, and it's really paid off, as Incineroar now is the switch in for that Zacian.
Yeah, and just making sure that Rillaboom stays somewhat in check. I believe that was a double max guard attempt there that did not quite make it for Adam here. And it is going to be the max geyser going into Adam's Colossal. Easily going to be enough to pick up the knockout, even without the rain boost coming out here. Kyogre had to take a little bit of damage from Grassy Glide, but something that Kyogre's probably more than happy to do in this situation when you knock out the Gigantamax Pokemon on Adam's side of the field. And, you know, there's that little tick from Life Orb, there's a little bit of recovery coming from grassy terrain, and now we're back to, again, Rillaboom and Zacian versus the Kyogre, Incineroar, Zacian, and whatever else that Gunn has brought to the match.
Yeah, so Zacian is the play now. I mean, if there's anything that's going to kind of turn things around, it could be this Zacian. It's a pretty good Pokemon, I've heard. So you can do a lot of damage with it, but Incineroar has just come on the field, and the Rillaboom isn't even its first on here, so it can't even fake out. So it's a pretty safe fake out into Zacian and potentially, and then another move from this Kyogre, which is going to might either be a Hailstorm into the Rillaboom, but you've still so much options in the back. You can just keep cycling your Intimidate and your parting shots. Bringing the Zacian it's looking pretty tough for France's end here. So Hailstorm does go into the protecting Rillaboom, and it's doing a really good chunk of damage there. So if there is a potential game 3, it's kind of good to know how much damage that does. As we can see, it could potentially be a one-shot if there was no protect there, looking at that damage. And as we can see, the Hail Chip goes down, again revealing that Incineroar is faster than this Rillaboom. And even so, the Rillaboom, potentially if it goes for the max, it's actually slower than this Kyogre, so this Kyogre is always able to get a Hailstorm off before the Rillaboom could even get a Drum Solo. So Gunn's got a really strong team into Adams.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel like Adam has too many tools in the toolbox for what Gunn's bringing, and especially the way that Gunn's trained their Pokemon, because I think that's, you know, as you're saying before, like it could be a completely different build where Colossal actually starts to get some momentum going, and now Adam's got to figure out a way to knock out 4 Pokemon with his 2, especially with this Incineroar being able to cycle as it pivots out to the Thunderous. It's got to find a way to. They've got to find a way to do all of this damage, and it's just not feeling too likely.
I mean, Thunderous has come in here, and like a non-max Thunderous into a Zacian is not doing a whole lot, especially if your own Zacian has something like a Play Rough. But even then, a Behemoth Blade unintimidated is also pretty strong and like just an easy 2-hit KO. So he's not out of it yet, especially as that Kyogre is down. But as we've seen, this Incineroar can potentially come in and keep rotating those Intimidates. But with the substitute being up, that is going to mitigate that somewhat. So he's not completely out of it yet, despite the Kyogre being down and having dished out so much damage in the early game. However, we have seen that Gunn's Zacian it's at least a speed tie, but Gunn's Zacian is probably the faster one, as we saw from the game 1. So he at least has that in the Zacian mirror in this endgame. Rillaboom also, as we can see, has the high horsepower, so there is damage that can potentially go on to Gunn's Zacian, and a critical hit could really change things around for Adam too. On either Pokemon at the moment. So he's definitely not out of it yet, thanks to, I think, Gunn bringing that kind of Thunderous in the back.
Yeah, I think the sub is really so important for Adam's side of the field here, as Protect comes out onto the Zacian on Adam's side of the field, but Gunn not falling for it yet again, being able to target around that Protect, getting a KO on the Rillaboom, and stopping anything else coming from Gunn's side of the field. And now it does feel like there's very little that Adam's going to be able to really do to stop it, because now Zacian can only target one side or one Pokemon at a time, and Gunn has 3 Pokemon left, and all of which can do, you know, enough damage, I think, to Zacian here.
Yeah, it's an unfortunate turn there. I think if Adam had got that Protect Mind game correct, I think he would maybe still be in this. Maybe Behemoth Blade crit onto the Zacian there, or even into the Thunderous too. But as we see, Gunn's still going, not playing it safe yet. He's still calling the Protects, and he's called it well again this time. Wild Charge comes out again from the Thunderous. This should be enough to break the substitute on the Zacian. Noting also that the safety goggles on the Thunderous there from the previous turn, it doesn't take any Hail Chip. But yeah, the it's that's the third turn of like hell turn now between these sessions. So I'm pretty sure it's not a speed tie now. It still could be, but it's looking tough for Adam to come out of this. But if it is a speed tie and he wins it this time, oh my goodness, I think I might pop off.
Maybe a little bit. Yeah, I mean, like, you know, now that the substitute's gone, all that Gunn needs to do is maybe cycle around intimidates. Maybe just keep attacking, you know. And I think this is a real testament to both of these players. They're both playing correctly. You know, Adam trying to play the protect mind games, Gunn doing the same, and working around. It's just that Gunn's been able to get it right on more occasions than Adam has, and it's so difficult when you've already got a little bit of a team matchup deficit, as Adam had, to play those mind games out and get them right. Because, you know, if you're the team with a good matchup, usually you can take a little bit more of a risk. You've got a little bit more freedom. Those plays are okay, and if you get them wrong, they don't lose you as much as when you when you get them wrong on the other side, and then you can just lose the game on the spot. And I think that's the position that Adam was in. Is just like, but it happened over and over again, right? It's just like over and over again. Gunn just got the turns absolutely spot on and was able to take this win. So, without further ado, to announce it officially, Thailand 4-0 is going to be making it to the finals. They are your first finalist, beating out France with 4 games. We'll see what the last 3 games have in store, but they will be heading to the final, and France, unfortunately, will be leaving the competition.
Yeah, like, what a run for Thailand, like, so far. Like, yeah, it's still going. It's incredible. Like, and so just to let you know, we are streaming the final 3 games as well. But yeah, just to kind of summarize, like, Thailand's run, like, congratulations. But in top 16 versus Japan, their first 4 games they all won. So they beat Japan kind of 4-0, as it were, and then the rest of their games they kind of just played it really safe and not revealing any information. Top 8 versus Poland, 4-1. And then they won again, so really convincingly. And today 4-0 to France. So like consistently just winning after winning, like every single, like even in this top cut stage, like, oh, it's incredible. This is scary team to be going up against. So I don't know what like their like schedule's been like, or like team building behind the scenes. I'd have loved to be like a little fly on the wall there, just kind of seeing what is going on. And looking at their current win to loss ratio, they've played a total of 43 games through the 6 weeks, and they've won 27 of them and lost 15. So that's a 64% win rate, which is pretty incredible.
Yeah, not surprising when we've watched them, how they've played their matches. I think, you know, how they're prepared for their matches as well. I think looking back on the 4 games that we've already seen so far in this tournament, or in this match between France and Thailand, they've always felt like they just had the edge in the matchup. Whether it was close or not, you know, there's definitely been some games that France could have taken on a different day. Absolutely, even one decision, changes the result of the match, and could have been much tighter at the end. But Thailand felt like they were just preparing, just had to have that slight edge in all of these games so far, and they've been able to both create that edge in the preparation that they've done, and then transfer those bits of preparations through to a win, finding those lines that do actually get you there. And that's just so impressive against, you know, such a dominant team in France that, you know, they lost 8-0 in their first week and then just managed to get all the way to top 4, which is impressive enough on its own. And, they've got such a great set of players behind them. To see Thailand being able to take a win in such commanding fashion is really incredible to see.
Yeah, and we need to send off France properly though, because like they have been a really strong team. And like if you were watching the original kind of group and qualifier stages, I don't think a lot of people's mind would actually be on France, because they barely made it out the qualifier stage after drawing versus Denmark in the week 3, and then proceeding to a defeat. But like versus China in week 6, they won 5-3, and then in top 16 versus Italy it was 4-3, so like only just, and then again versus the USA in top 8, again very close win with the 4-3. So they have been playing well, but like hats off to Thailand for like obviously just kind of dominating their opponents, whereas like France has just been kind of fetching in there. But yeah, well done to be getting to that top 4, and they should be getting a little bit of prize money too. So that's pretty good for them as well.
Absolutely. And without further ado, we're going to be going to a short break now. We'll be back with the last 3 matches, of course, of this match between France and Thailand. So looking forward to seeing what these teams have got in store for us in the last matches.